The front of our flyer is now ready. From the left we have 1mm space and 5mm margin. This 1mm will be cut off at the last stage of printing. Press Shift and F4 to fit the page on the screen. So also remember that our flyer will be 1mm smaller than A4 size. Go to File menu and click on Open. Select the back CDR file and click Open. Now, the 6mm margin is placed on the right side of the flyer. So we flip the flyer and 1mm cut is now on the other side. Press Shift and F4. Of course, the standard 5mm margin is counted not from the edge of the page, but from the guideline placed at 296mm. Press Shift and F4. Fit the page on the screen. Go to the Tools menu and click on Object Manager. Collapse the master page list. We'll now create a new layer for crop and fold marks. Go to the Docker menu and click on New Layer. Change the name of this layer to Crop Fold Marks. Let's change the crop fold marks to red. This means that in wireframe view, all elements placed on this layer will be marked by a red colour. Now, select all crop and fold marks. Make sure that you've selected all the crop and fold marks that we've created previously. We'll now move all these marks to the layer we've just created. To do that, just drag all these selected elements and drop them over the crop fold marks layer. Click on the pencil icon next to the layer's name to lock its contents. Now, switch to layer 1. This is the layer on which we'll work. Close the Object Manager docker. We'll now make the first element for this side of the flyer. Well, let's go back to Object Manager for a while. Go to Tools menu and click on Object Manager. First position in the master page list is Guides. Let's click on the pencil icon next to the guides. This way all guides will be locked and they won't get in the way during the project work. Close the Object Manager docker. Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. Go to Tools menu and click on Object Manager. Make sure that the selected layer is layer 1. Now close the docker. Switch to Rectangle tool and draw a large rectangle. If the guidelines are making our work difficult, we can always hide them. Go to View menu. Here we can activate and deactivate the visibility of the guidelines. We can also do that in Object Manager, but here's much faster. Deactivate the guidelines. Press F2 and draw a selection box, including the rectangle. Switch to Rectangle tool. We'll now create holes that are part of the camera film. Draw a small rectangle, change its width to 3mm and height to 2mm, and press Enter. Change its corner type to round and set them to 0.7mm. Press F3 to zoom out. This hole's too small. Switch to the Pick tool and upscale it a little bit. Change the width of the rectangle to 5mm and the height to 3. Of course, we don't need to change these values. Doing that, however, will help us later on. Click on the side to deselect all objects. Go to the control bar. Now, change the nudge distance to 1mm and press Enter. We'll now align this smaller rectangle with the base figure. Select both figures, go to Align and Distribute docker and click on Align Top and Align Left. Click on the side to deselect all figures. Now, select only this small rectangle, press the down arrow key once and the right arrow key once. This figure is now moved from the edge of the base figure by 1mm. Well, let's select this small figure again and press the right arrow key once. Now it's perfect. Let's select the small rectangle and move it up by pressing the up arrow key. Click on the side to deselect all figures. Then go to the control bar and change the nudge distance to 1.5mm. Select the small rectangle and press the down arrow key once. Close the Align and Distribute docker and press F3 to zoom out. Select the small rectangle and press the plus on the numeric keyboard to duplicate it. Press the right arrow key 4 times and move the copied object. Press Ctrl D, leave all these options at default and click OK. Well, something's wrong. Press Ctrl Z to undo the changes. We need to do this again. Select the small rectangle. Press the plus key on the numeric keyboard to duplicate it. Press the right arrow key 4 times and move the copied object. Now press Ctrl D repeatedly until the whole width of the base figure will be filled with these small rectangles. So Ctrl D repeats our last actions. In this case, it duplicates the figure and moves it 6 mm to the right. Zoom in to check if everything is alright. Now press F3 to zoom out. Select the first small rectangle and duplicate it and move the copied object down. Hold Shift and add the base figure to the selection. Activate the Align and Distribute docker and align the selected figures down and to the left. Remember that this base figure shouldn't move during the alignment process. Select the base figure and change its fill color to yellow. Select the bottom small rectangle and press the up arrow key once and the right arrow key once. Let's now see if the top and the bottom small rectangles are aligned. Well, they're not. It's because we changed the nudge distance in the middle of positioning the first rectangle. Click on the side to deselect all figures and change the nudge distance to 1 mm. Move this small rectangle to the edge of the base figure. Now press the right arrow key twice. Click on the side to deselect all figures and change the nudge distance back to 1.5 mm. Remember to use a dot instead of a comma. Change the nudge distance to 1.5 mm and press enter. Well, sometimes the easiest actions can suddenly transform into really difficult ones. Press the plus key on the numeric keypad to duplicate the figure. Press the right arrow key 4 times. This moves the copied figure. Now press Ctrl D repeatedly. Press F3 to zoom out. Keep pressing Ctrl D until the whole width of the figure is filled with these small rectangles. Switch to the Pick tool and select all these elements. We'll now combine these elements. As you probably remember, the combine will merge these objects together and delete their overlapping part. Go to the control bar and click on Combine. Let's now change the fill color of this new figure to dark blue. Switch to the rectangle tool and draw a frame. Standard photographic frame size is 24 by 36 mm. But such information becomes useless as all cameras are now digital. Hold Shift and add the blue figure to the selection. Go to Align and Distribute docker and click on Align Center horizontally. Select only the frame and press the plus key on the numeric keypad to duplicate this figure. Now use the right arrow key to move the copied figure. Once the copied figure is placed correctly, press Ctrl D. Press Ctrl D repeatedly until the whole blue figure is filled with frames. The last frame is slightly too big. Let's just make its width smaller. But first, let's deactivate the Snap to Objects option. Go to View menu and Snap to and click on Snap to Objects. Let's now make the width of this last frame a little bit bigger. Now, select only the frames and change their fill color to yellow. Close the Align and Distribute docker. A photographic film is now ready. Move this film outside the page, duplicate it and place the copied set at the bottom of the page. Select the backup copy outside the page, go to Arrange menu and click on Group. Now place various photos inside these frames. Go to the File menu and click Import. Select 5 random photos and click Import. Instead of just clicking once, draw a dotted line. This way we can choose the size of the imported photo. We actually have 7 frames, so we'll be missing some photos, but don't worry. Let's work with that. Click on the photo with the right mouse button and drag it over the first frame and release the mouse button. Place the photo correctly and exit the Power Clip editing mode. As you can see, the photo wasn't automatically centered after placing it inside the frame. Let's look if we can change that. Go to the Tools menu and click Options, and expand Workspace submenu. Click on the Power Clip section, go to Auto Center, New Content option, and check Always. Click OK to accept the changes. Now drag the photo with the right mouse button and drop it over the second frame. From the appearing menu, choose Power Clip Inside option. As you can see, the photo is now centered inside the frame. Place the next photos inside the correct frames. If you don't have enough photos, just use the Import option. Select all the elements of this photographic film. Go to Arrange menu and click on Group. Let's also set its outline to none. What we want to do now is to bend this photographic film along the photos placed inside its frames. To do that, we need to use one of the distort filters. Go to Bitmaps menu and access the Distort Filter submenu. As you can see, the options aren't active. Why is that? It's because this element is now a vector type graphic. Before we can use any of these filters, we need to convert it to bitmap. Before we do that, let's duplicate this object. The copied one will serve as a backup copy. Now, move the copied object outside the page. Select the original object, go to Bitmaps menu and click on Convert to Bitmap. Set the resolution to 300 dpi, colour mode to CMYK. Make sure that both these options are activated and then click OK. We've just converted this object to bitmap. Filters from Bitmap menu will now be active. Go to Bitmap menu, then Distort and click on Ripple. Let's play with the period and amplitude values. Well, let's change the amplitude to 12 and period to 73. Click on a button with the lock on it to activate the automatic preview. As you can see, there's a problem. Click OK. The effect doesn't have enough space to be seen. The bounding box is set by these transformation points. What we need to do is to make the working space of this object bigger. Since this is a bitmap, we can't just drag one of the transformation handles. It'll just change the size of a project. Change control. Fuck it. Switch to Rectangle tool and draw a rectangle that's much bigger than the photographic film. Select this rectangle and set its outline to none. Now, select both these objects. As you can see, the transformation points are now completely different places. When we convert these objects to a bitmap, the whole selected area will be one large object. Go to Bitmaps menu and click on Convert to Bitmap. Leave all these options at default and click OK. Go to Bitmaps menu, then Distort and click on Ripple. Activate the automatic preview by clicking on the lock button. Let's now play with the amplitude value. Well, let's try and make the amplitude really small. This little lock button will activate the automatic preview. This means that each time we change something, the change will be immediately visible in the document. Well, let's set the amplitude to 8 and click OK. Thanks to the extra rectangle which we created before converting this object to bitmap, we can now see the whole ripple effect. Of course, this effect also changes the photos inside the frame. This way the effect is more attractive for a potential viewer. Press Shift and F4 to fit the page on the screen. Let's now make the guidelines visible. Go to View menu and click on Guidelines. Switch to Rectangle tool and draw a rectangle. Switch to Pick tool and select this rectangle. Change its width to 70 mm and height to 50 mm. Then press Enter. We'll now make little holes inside this figure. Switch to the Ellipse tool and draw a small circle. Switch to the Pick tool, select the circle, change its width to 5 mm and then press Enter. Well, maybe view is too much. Change the width of the figure to 2.5 mm. Well, something is wrong. Let's activate the ratio lock. Well, let's do that again. Select the circle and delete it. Switch to the Ellipse tool, hold Control and draw a proportional circle. Go to the control bar and activate the ratio lock. Now, change the width of this circle to 2.5 mm and then press Enter. Let's zoom in on the circle. We'll now align the centre of this circle with the corner node of the rectangle. Go to View menu and click on Wireframe. Go to View menu again, then Snap to and click on Snap to Objects. Drag the small circle by its centre and place it over the top left corner of the big rectangle. The width of this circle is 2.5 mm. We'll now set the nudge distance to the exact same value. Deselect all figures, go to the control bar and change the nudge distance to 2.5. Select the circle and press the plus key on the numeric keypad to duplicate it. Now press the right arrow key once to move the copied figure. Press F3 to zoom out. Now press Ctrl D repeatedly to fill the top edge of this rectangle with copies of this small circle. This should fit perfectly, since 70 can easily be divided by 2.5. Zoom out and check how it looks on the other side of the rectangle. Press F3 several times to zoom out. Press F2 and draw a selection including this rectangle. Select the first circle on the right side and press the plus key on the numeric keypad to duplicate it. Press the down arrow key once to move the copied figure. Now press Ctrl D repeatedly to repeat these actions. Press Ctrl D until the right edge of the rectangle is filled with circles. Remember that all these numbers can be divided by 2.5. That's why these circles fit so nicely. Again, select the circle, duplicate it and press the left arrow key. Now press Ctrl D. Select the last circle, duplicate it and press the up arrow key once. Press Ctrl D until the rectangle is completely wrapped with small circles. Since we don't know the outcome of the trimming, we need to make a backup copy. Select all of these objects and duplicate them. Select the original bunch, go to the control bar and click on Trim icon. Click on the side to deselect all objects and move the trimmed figure. As you can see, trimming was successful. Select all the small circles and delete them. Switch to the Pick tool and select both objects. You can now use the keyboard shortcuts to align these figures. If you don't know them, go to Arrange menu and look at the Align and Distribute option. Press C to align them vertically and E to align them horizontally. Press Shift and F4 to fit the page on the screen. Now move the backup copy of this figure to the side. Now select the original figure and the rectangle placed inside it. Go to Arrange menu and click on Group. We now need to align this object with the first segment of our flyer. There are two ways to do that. First is to just calculate the correct X position, but we'll go ahead with the second, easier technique. Switch to Rectangle tool and draw a rectangle as big as the first segment. Select the object, hold Shift and add the rectangle to the selection. Go to Align and Distribute docker and align selected figures vertically. Move the rectangle next to the segment, duplicate this figure and place it underneath the rectangle. Select this figure, hold Shift and add the rectangle to the selection. Align both these figures vertically. Move the rectangle to the third segment, duplicate the trimmed figure and place it underneath the rectangle. Select both figures in the last segment and align them vertically. The first trimmed object is placed correctly, so we need to select it last. This way it won't move during the alignment process. Select the third trimmed figure, hold Shift and add the two others to the selection. Go to the docker and align the center vertically icon. Close the docker, go to View menu and click on Normal. Select these three photos. Go to Arrange menu and click on Ungroup. We'll now import some photos. Go to File menu and select 3 random photos and click Import. Draw the size for each photo. Make them slightly bigger than the frames. Move the first photo with the right mouse button and drop it over the frame. From the menu, select Power Clip Inside option. Repeat these actions for the other 2 photos. You now need to group these sets of objects separately. Select the first set and go to Arrange menu and click on Group. Repeat this with the other 2 frames. Select all the objects and move them down. Now, select only the first object and rotate it by 15 degrees. Select the second object, go to the control bar and change the rotation angle. Change it to 15 degrees and press Enter. Select the last frame and also rotate it by 15 degrees. Let's now import a background photo for the side of the flyer. Go to File menu and click on Import. Select a random photo. Click once to place the photo inside the document. Now upscale the photo. Make it bigger than the page. Move the photo to the side and click twice on the rectangle tool icon. We'll use this big rectangle as a power clip frame for a background photo. Go to Arrange menu, then Transformations and click on Size. Change the origin point to center and uncheck the proportional option. Change the Y value to 216mm and X to 303mm and press Enter. Change the outline of the rectangle to None. Drag the background photo with the right mouse button and drop it over the grey rectangle. From the appearing list, choose Power Clip Inside option. The photo is bigger than the page, so we won't have to correct anything. Hold Ctrl and click on the first grouped object. Now, change its fill color to white. Repeat these actions for the other two grouped elements. Zoom in on the top right corner of the flyer, switch to Rectangle tool and draw a rectangle that starts at the corner of the bleed limit and ends at the margin guideline. Change the fill color of this rectangle to blue. Set the outline of the rectangle to none. Go to the control bar and change the corner type to round. Deactivate the ratio lock and change the bottom right corner bend to 5mm. Duplicate this rectangle 2 times and place the copies in segments 2 and 3. Select the last rectangle and go to the control bar. Set the bottom right corner bend to 0mm. Now set the bottom left corner bend to 5mm. Our flyer is now ready.